All right, everyone, time to talk about the Mueller report again because nobody's talking about anything else for the most part. Mueller, Rosenstein, Barr, the whole 9 yards. It's actually very exciting because it's better than you could possibly imagine for those who support Trump. Being 1 foot in and 1 foot out of that camp tacitly at the moment because of some of his own foibles, I would say it's very good for him. There's no way to spin this report that is negative for Trump. They're trying, like the Democrats, oh my God, it doesn't exonerate him of obstruction. It's very funny to see them shift from collusion to obstruction. That's become the new thing. It's sort of like when the Mueller report was winding down, when they're like, yeah, it's going to end soon. They started rambling briefly about his tax returns again. It's a switching of tactics, definitely. What they had all along was he colluded, he colluded, he colluded. There is no evidence whatsoever of collusion, not just with Trump, but with his entire group of associates. None of those people, out of all of the many, many hundreds of people directly investigated and all the other people named, only those that were indicted did anything wrong, and in no case does it have anything to do with the Trump campaign colluding with Russia. That is an exoneration by any standard. If after 2 years and $30 million and dozens of people investigating you and everyone associated with you can't find one person that did what the central claim of the original material that was used to file that warrant in the first place and create the probe supposedly did, if no evidence is found of that, well, that's an exoneration of you and everyone around you. There was no Russian election interference. They're going back to the Facebook ads line and crazy shit like that. Yes, that swung the election so hard, dude. Do you realize how much ad cash you'd have to get to swing maybe a few thousand votes? Do you realize how many ads you'd have to serve? Do you know what the click-through rate is on that and the retention rate and all of those? Do you know anything about advertising? Have you ever run an ad campaign? Most of you, the answer is no. I can tell you it would take millions and millions of dollars, and that's at a minimum. And he was saying, oh, they bought $100,000 worth of Facebook ads. Okay, so they swung a few dozen votes maybe. That would be pretty much the limit. By that point in the race, everyone had decided who they supported anyway, so who gives a fuck? And they supported Sanders too. But then they talk about obstruction. Now, obstruction's a little bit different because what amounts to obstruction in this case? People are making the claim that Trump obstructed justice by making mean tweets, which is clearly not the case. And Barr's like, look, I can't charge the sitting president with obstruction of justice based on what's being claimed here. I just can't do that. It's impossible. The cop-out is that the Democrats are saying, well, that's because it's Barr. That's because it's a Trump appointee. I don't think so. The Attorney General usually acts with pretty great latitude. Now, weren't the Democrats a year ago saying that all of these people, Attorney Generals, FBI heads and stuff, couldn't be compromised? They were inevitably good. They could never be leaned on. There was no corruption. There's no deep state, no anything like that. But all of a sudden, Trump, I guess, found the one person that was willing to be a slimy AG. And Barr, of course, not someone who is universally liked even, among maybe the more libertarian tenets of maybe soft Trump supporters, but that doesn't mean that he's corrupt. And so, and then they give out the report, and they're like, well, it's not, this is just an outline. We need every single bit of the report. You are never going to see every bit of the report. It would breach the Fourth Amendment to disclose personal information about people that weren't indicted. And it would, even people that were indicted, but then the charges didn't go through. Like they keep talking about the fact that 34 or 36 people were indicted. Okay, not all of them were successfully prosecuted. Some of them, are still, I think, in a gray area. Isn't Flynn one of those? I think they indicted him, but they haven't dragged him through the court yet, still, or something. I don't know. I sort of lost track of that case. And then a lot of those indictments, none of them have anything to do with Russian collusion. Most of them are on lesser charges, like Papadopoulos. He lied to the FBI. He spent 2 weeks in jail. He's counted among that number, but is that a significant crime? No. Is it related to the probe itself? No, it's related to, in the course of that probe, he said something that was false or misleading to the FBI. That's all it is. Who fucking cares? It wasn't about anything substantial, and if the central claim, here's the other part, if the central claim of collusion with the Russian government is false, which it is, there's no evidence of it, it is not true. It is not true that the Trump campaign colluded with a foreign state in any way. Because that is false, because the central premise of the probe is bullshit, it never should have happened in the first place, and all of those secondary charges never should have existed. The only meaningful, significant charges here that were made in the course of the whole probe were against Paul Manafort for 10-year-old money laundering charges at the time. 10-year-old in association with the democratically partisan Podesta group, Manafort not really being a conservative so much as just a political hawk that happens to play any side that's willing to pay him a lot of money. Nothing to do with the Trump campaign. He wasn't Trump's campaign manager at the time. Trump didn't have a campaign to run for another 8 years after the era in which he was supposedly laundering that money. So what I would say is this. This is absolutely an exoneration. Trump is not going to get impeached. People are saying, well, Nixon was impeached for obstruction of justice. There's a big difference between tangibly destroying evidence, tangibly, visibly, objectively lying to Congress, among other groups, and spying on your political adversaries. There's a big difference between the claims made of Nixon and what's being claimed about Trump. The central claim now, think of it this way. Here's the weakness of what the Democrats or liberals in general are saying. Now that collusion is bullshit, the Steele dossier is bullshit, collusion didn't happen, that central stuff is all blown out of the water. It's gone away forever. They're not going to be able to revive it very easily. The central premise that they're making is that Trump tweeting about Jeff Sessions or something amounts to obstruction of justice. What this is really about, when they use the term obstruction of justice, they're hoping that you don't look at what the actual fundamental basis for that claim would be. In Richard Nixon's case, it was substantially more than, hey, I said something mean to somebody. I suggested that an investigation was a witch hunt. Then they're jumping down his throat about that. I told you the whole time that the reason why Trump was doing that, calling it a witch hunt, saying it was bullshit, ragging on people, is because he knew that there would be no indictment, because he didn't collude. He was sitting there laughing this entire time. People said, oh my God, it's grinding him down, he feels so terrible, he'll probably resign. He's surrounded, people around him hate him, they want to kick him out and stuff, you know, and it was all bullshit. The entire thing has been completely fake. Now I knew that, some other people knew that, but the lame streamers didn't know that. CNN right now is way more sad than Trump ever would have been at the peak of his misery under the Mueller probe. Mueller will have to go before Congress, and he's going to tell them the same bullshit he had to tell Barr in his write-up, and then Barr gives his write-up to Congress and says, look, what do you want me to do? I can't charge a man for making a mean tweet. It's not illegal. No, the President of the United States still does have some protection under the First Amendment. Whoops. That's what it's really about. So fuck the Democratic Party. They've wasted 2 fucking years that they could have been negotiating on border security. They could have been trying to get even more tax relief for like the lower and middle class. It'd be nice. They could have been trying to support Trump's diplomacy in Korea to create peace. They could have been trying to give him the tools necessary to act as a proper executive. Instead, time after fucking time, they said, Ma Russia, obstruction of justice. We can't work with this evil hell devil tyrant. He's not a tyrant. The people that are being tyrannical just wasted 30 million of our dollars and accomplished but fuck nothing. That's about all. Peace out.